So the last we saw was the demise of Dasharatha and the discussion about what happens, what is the fate of a kingless state, what is going to happen. So in that connection, the counselors come together and immediately decide. They say, the question everybody is asking, is there any deliberation needed in this? There's no deliberation. There seems to be a separate council that they had, which was a succession council. And they would specifically discuss about who is to come, how is the kingdom to be managed, who is the next to rule, etc. And so they say there is no discussion needed. Let's send messengers immediately. Who is the messenger going for? To Rama to call him? No. The messenger, it's very, very clear. They've already been there. Rama's, in all these discussions, Rama is very, very, very fixed on his vow, basis his father's instruction. So what's going to happen here is the fact that they are sending these messengers to Bharata. So Vashishta is saying, telling to the messengers, please, you're not there to go and speak the truth. So what are you supposed to do? You're going to conceal the situation. Address everything else. Don't speak anything in this connection. Don't show any signs of grief when you're there with them, and convey the following to him. What are you telling Bharata? The family priests and the counselors who seek your welfare want you to actually return in haste. They have some very, very important activities for you. And then they say, don't talk about Rama, don't talk about Dasharatha. And then he says, see to it that there are enough gifts for the king's son, which is the uncle of Bharata, and for Bharata. Yes, a lot of silk ornaments, coins, gold, all of this stuff. So the messengers leave first to their homes, to their respective homes, mount on excellent horses, and then start moving immediately. So there's a beautiful description of the different streams, wells, ponds, pools, large tanks. Well, today all of them have become either colleges or somebody has built their homes on their spaces. That's why we are all suffering for water. And different kinds of animals, lions, tigers, and elephants, they travel through. For a long journey, tired horses, but they never tired because of their dedication. What was their dedication due to? Partuf priyartam, kalu rakshanartam. Two things. One is because Vashishta had informed, had instructed them, and because he is their Lord and Master, they have to obey and go by his instruction. And practically speaking, Vashishta is ruling at this point in time. The reins are in his hand in the meanwhile. As we had discussed before, the seniors came and said that you should take care of everything that need to be. Second is to protect the dynasty. That's the kind of allegiance they had to this great dynasty. And then the king's home, Ikshvaku Vamsha, to protect the Ikshvaku Vamsha, where they have lived for many, many, many generations, and their thankfulness to that. So they never neglected. They didn't have a wink of sleep. They kept traveling to the best of their ability without taking a break to reach Dasharatha's place. That is chapter, one second. We are done with 68, moving on to 69. In the meanwhile, Bharata wakes up on the wrong side of the bed that day. So first, at dawn, they see that he's in a bad mood. Say they try to engage him. Just as friends say, hey, come on, let's go for a movie. Yes, what are they trying? They're trying to see that there are people who come in and play different instruments. There's drama, there's drum, there's dance, there's jokes. They're trying many things to see if they will be able to distract him. But nothing seems to move him. So, then Bharata is thinking and sharing with them what he has seen, and to his close friends who are there. And he says, I was seeing Dasharatha, my father, with dirty and disheveled hair. I've never seen the king in that state. That was a dream, an early morning dream at dawn that I got. And I saw him falling from a mountain peak into a cow dung pit and floating in the pool of cow dung, drinking oil from his palms. Yes, repeatedly laughing, eating sesame rice. That's very interesting. Eating sesame rice, oiling his body, and then jumping into a pool, entering an oil pool. Beheld, and if you see later, to preserve Dasharatha's body, they did put him in a pool of oil. And beheld his father in black clothing. Sometimes I wear a black kurta. I remember, I've read about this, that some of the dark shades are not good to wear, at least for spiritual events for sure. Resting on a seat made of iron. He's a man who always sits in a seat made of gold. Why iron? And a dark woman, many dark women laughing at him. An ass-drawn cart heading south. And then there were a few others that they saw, and he thought he had seen his omen. First, he saw a dried up ocean. That's a literally impossible sight. Um, the moon fallen on the ground, the tusks of an elephant broken into pieces, a blazing fire suddenly extinguished out of nothing, and mountains crumbling and covered with smoke. When he saw all this, he's got in his head that there's something that's seriously wrong. So he tells his friend, either I think there's something wrong with Rama or Lakshmana or the king. And he says his throat is parched and he is in fear as to what is going to happen. So these are indications of Shakuna, different auspicious or inauspicious bodings that are there. In this connection, if you may remember, we have seen like twitching of the eye, twitching of parts of the body to be also considered a Shakuna. So one of the famous incidents recently that we heard, and which is coming from the Ramayana, is at one point in time, there were multiple people whose different parts were twitching. This is the time when Rama and Sugriva have the bondage of friendship. At that time, Sugriva's right eye is twitching. Vali's left eye is twitching. For male, the left eye is a bad symptom. And Ravana is also having his left eye twitching. Sita is having her left eye twitching also. For the ladies, the left eye is an auspicious thing. So Sugriva, his right eye, which is auspicious for men, and him. Sita, her left, and Ravana and Vali on the other hand. So these are all omens that they are seeing, which are important. So at the same time, when he's describing these, the messengers are entering into the city. So when they first enter, they come to the palace and they make inquiries if everybody is well, and they communicate Vashishta and the counselors' inquiries of the well-being of everybody, and the request that Bharata is needed to take care of some important matters, and they wish his welfare and request him to come back to Ayodhya at the earliest. So then there's some big number of gifts that they've bought in there. The description is just awesome. Something like for the king, 20 crores. For Bharata's maternal uncle, 10 crores. They, and then gold coins, this, that, fantastic blankets, all of these things being gifted away. So then Bharata is asking this question immediately, because already he's been having these moments and suddenly these people pop up at the same time. So his first question is, how are Dasharatha? How is Rama, Lakshmana, and how is Mata Kaushalya? Is the first question. Then he inquires about Sumitra. Then he inquires about Kaikeyi. And it's an interesting narration on what he calls Kaikeyi. Atmakama, one who is always self-interested. Sada Chandi, always ready to become angry at any point. Krodhana, angry at the slightest. And Prajnamanini, one who thinks she is very intelligent, very capable. He says, how is my mother? I hope she's doing well. So the messengers give a blanket information saying, everybody you inquired about, all of them are doing well. So then Bharata, then they say that you've been requested to come as soon as possible. Bharata understands the urgency and Bharata takes leave. He promises to his grandfather, he says, whenever you think of me, whenever you decide, I'll always come back, but please permit me to leave. Taking his grandfather's permission, is ready to move. Grandfather says, hey, your dad sent me so much gifts from across the other side. My duty to do the same. So there are many, many elephants, wonderful horses, elephants, various types of skins, antelope and other skins, auspicious ones. 2,000 gold coins. Hey man, look at that. 1,600 horses. And then he also sent some counselors. So when somebody like, if you see, Kaikeyi had come along with her people who were a retinue of servants who've been serving her before, and including some friends who also moved from there along with Kaikeyi. Like that, whichever of these people, if you see, some of the friends and the counselors of Bharata are also being sent along with him from here. So these are people who are advising. Mantara was also one such person for Kaikeyi. Had come from the wonderful Kaikeyi Rajya. And what is her core deal? Her deal and her only purpose is to see that Kaikeyi is doing well. That's the core purpose. So these counselors are also sent along with Bharata to be those who are well-wishers of Bharata at all times and think of his best interest. Then there's an interesting description of huge dogs, the sizes of tigers, which are very capable of protecting, etc. But when Bharata received all these gifts, he acknowledged these gifts, but there was no happiness in him because there was a sense of hurry. He's seeing these omens, he's seeing the messengers in, he's in a hurry to see what he can do about it. So then a big procession departs, 100 chariots, camels, oxen, all of these horses that were mentioned, and the elephants that were mentioned, a segment of the army that goes with him. So all of this is going along with him. That is chapter 70 that we just touched upon. So then comes an arduous journey that he goes through. It's an interesting map. He's going eastward because from where he is heading towards the east, as Ayodhya is further towards the east. And the journey is talking about how many rivers he crosses, what he does. A lot of wonderful description. I really hope I can share this document with one of you. But if somebody can actually map this journey of Bharata from Kaikeyi back to Ayodhya with the different spots that they travel. So he crossed the Yamuna and then he crossed Ganga at different points in time, sees different types of forests, sees different types of animals, sees different types of kingdoms that other cities and villages that come in between. All of that description is here. And then there are specific forests with specific trees that are being described here. And then as he comes towards Ayodhya, it's already 7 nights in journey. So 7 nights on his way. In fact, there's a description that because the elephants and the horses and the entire army, including foot soldiers and chariots, are much slower, Bharata decided to get on the elephants first, some elephants first, and then horses, and head out separately with just a small team, head out separately ahead of the army so that he will be able to be in Ayodhya ahead of them. And does he reach ahead of them? Yes, he does. After 7 nights. So when he reached there, what is he getting to see? As he enters Ayodhya, there's an interesting description of Ayodhya. It says Pandu Pratika, that the clay of Ayodhya or the soil of Ayodhya is whitish in color. We are heading there. Let's see, keep our eyes peeled and see what it is. So as he goes in there, he sees people are chilling. And then he sees the paths are empty. Where are the lovers? Where is the music? Where is the fragrance? Where is the incense? Where is the fragrance of sandal and aguru? None of these things. Where do I hear the mridanga and instruments playing? Why is everything looking inauspicious, ugly sights? But looking at all this, my mind is shrinking. I don't see any worship happening. Most of the homes, the doors are closed. Dejected at heart, full of apprehension, he entered. As he enters, sorry, I sort of jumped in. As he enters the city, the guards immediately stand up and there's a Jai Ghosha, Bharat Maharaj ki Jai, and all that. So he acknowledges that and walks in. But as he is seeing He's thinking, why this haste? Why have they called me in this haste? There's nothing normal about this. And then he's seeing the symptoms in Ayodhya, which he has only heard about. He hears about when a king passes on. Recently in the UAE, we got to see when Sheikh Khalifa passed on, and the mourning was announced. It means there's no entertainment, so none of those activities are going to happen for a particular number of days, and that also means there's a holiday, business is clamped down. What does that mean? That you can hear about it unless you actually experience it. You will not see. Bharata has never seen this because Dasharatha only died once. Sorry, did I say that? So nobody has lived a 60,000 long years. So people haven't heard of this in quite a while. So when Dasharatha passes on, he's able to see. He doesn't know still Dasharatha has passed on, but he's able to see the whole kingdom is sullen. There is no entertainment. There is no activity. The business centers seem to be shut. So he says the homes are unswept. The doors are open. There are no oblations that are being offered to the deities. Devagarani Shunyani. It seems there are only birds in many of these temples. There are no flowers that are being there on as decoration. The floral markets are empty, and the people are looking dull and emaciated. So he's able to see something is not right at all. So hurriedly he enters the father's palace. As he enters the father's palace, we move to the next chapter. This is chapter 71. We move on to 72. He enters the father's palace and he sees nothing in the father's palace. So seeing that there is nothing in the father's palace, there's nobody there in the father's palace, he says, "Oh, as usual, father must be with my mother, Kaikeyi." So immediately he heads on, to Kaikeyi's space. His eyes have tears. His heart is in distress, and he enters that place. So Bharata, sorry. So as soon as he enters, Kaikeyi is there. Sorry, Kaikeyi's palace. Kaikeyi is there. She springs up to receive him with joy. She's so happy. She's seeing her son after such a long time. And she's thinking, wow, here comes the king. This is the next guy who's going to be ruling. And with jubilation, goes out there. She inquires about his journey. How did the journey go? Are you tired, little boy? And she inquires about her family, how her father is, how her brother are, and all of that. She's not addressing the issue and the concern that Bharata has got. So Bharata in one sentence says, everybody that you inquire about and take care of is doing well. And after that, he says, can you please answer this question? It is lingering in my head. It's strong. Where is my father? I want to see him. I came here to offer obeisances to him. I need to do that immediately. Can you tell me where he is? Then he says, I need to pay obeisances to him. And as soon as he asks that, he says, is it that my father has gone to Kaushalya's house? Is he there? As soon as he asks this question, Kaikeyi is responding to say something that's most unpleasant. But she thinks that this is going to be pleasant news for Bharata. So she's offering it not with much sadness, but with a sort of mirth or joy in her voice. That's what she's doing. So she talks about his demise. How is she talking about his demise? Yagati sarvabhutanam tam gatim te pita gataha. Yagatim sarvabhutanam. To that place, that thing, that event that happens in every living entity's life. Tam gatim te pita gataha. To that particular position, your father has also reached. On hearing this, Bharata understands what has actually happened. He falls on the ground like a felled tree with his arms raised up. And looking at that, Kaikeyi runs towards Bharata, picks him up in her lap, and then speaks to him. And then she says, Bharata is saying, I was noticing that everything lacks luster. This seat where my father used to sit is now vacant. And, without him, this whole place has no beauty in it. So uh, Kaikeyi lifts him up and then speaks to him. And he says, Ashochanan Vasochastvam Pragya Vadam Shabashase Gatasuna Gatasumsha Anusochanti Pandita. Can somebody give you the meaning of this verse quickly?
Basically, Krishna saying to Arjuna, he is mourning for what is not worthy of grief. He's acting like a wise man, but he's mourning for what is not worthy of grief.
Absolutely. So is this worthy of grief? So he's saying, your father also passed away. What is the big thing? Literally, that's exactly what she's saying. And she's saying, actually, you're a learned man, you should be grieved like this. Bharata is saying, I had this apprehension as I was traveling, but still I had one end. There was a delight that he's going to coronate Rama. That was the thought that I came with. But now I hear this from you. What happened to him? He's my true well-wisher. Is there anybody who wishes better for me than my father? What ailment took him away? I miss his sweet reception, his kiss on my forehead, and how fortunate Rama was to have performed his final rites. I didn't get that good fortune. I missed that hand of his when I come and offer obeisances, when he touches me in my back, or if there is some dust sometimes, just out of pleasantness, he would tap it away from my back. And he says, actually, you see, so from now this means that Rama is my father, Rama is my brother, Rama is my friend, and Rama is my boss. I'm his servant. So he's saying, Yo me Bharata Pita Bandhu Yasya Dasos Dhimataha. Dhimataha is a reference to the most greatly intelligent Rama. Yo me, to him, he's my Bharata. He's my pita, my father, my bandhu, my friend. Yasya dasyosmi. A servant of whose now I am. And he's saying, therefore, yasya padav grahishyami sa idani gatir mama. Therefore, now I have to go to Rama and surrender to him because now he's my boss. And saying that, he's saying, can you please send a message to Rama? Yes? Can you please send a message to Rama that I'm coming? And then he asks, what was my father's last message for me? Did he have anything to say? So Kaikeyi is saying, he passed on lamenting, oh Rama, oh Lakshmana, oh Sita. And his last words were, whoever is there in Ayodhya to see Rama, Lakshmana and Sita come back will be a very, very fortunate person. Yes, we saw this when he passed on. Where his heart torn just to see that he could not see that his son has gone to Dandaka. Yes. So Bharata is asking, Bharata doesn't know about that. So Bharata is saying, what? Where have Rama, Lakshmana and Sita gone? She says, they left for Dandaka. So then his question is, I hope he didn't seize the wealth of a Brahmana, harm an innocent person, or covet somebody else's wife, or I hope he didn't become a person who's a killer of an embryo. It's because only people of that sort get banished to the forest. Yes? And then when he asks this question, that's what Kaikeyi is saying. Well, if only he had done one of those things, it would have been easy for me to send him out. But I pulled off a great deal for you. You know what I've done? He says, as soon as the king announced the coronation, I asked for 2 vows, and basis that I managed the banishment. And the other is to see that you are going to be coronated. So basis that, the king had to fulfill his promise. And because he was not able to see a son in the dream. Panchatvam, the word Panchatvam. What are the 5 elements according to the Bhagavad Gita? Can somebody give me? What are the 5 elements according to the Bhagavad Gita?
Earth, water, fire, air, ether.
Thank you. Which is the verse on that?
Bhumi rapo analo vayu kham mano buddhi revacha.
Thank you. Hey, I see a lot of bachas here. You're leaving Mataji to do all the answering, huh? Keep the fastest finger first. Be ready. So this is Pancha, the 5. So here it says Panchatvam. He attained Panchatvam, which means he became one with the 5 elements. Yes. The Bhagavatam also describes that when we pass away, what happens to the body? The body is either converted into ash, goes into the soil, and the air content in that, when it is burning, you see sometimes the body will have a little blast, and all the air pockets in the body reach the air, the water evaporates and moves on, and the rest that becomes ash and settles back into the soil. Or if the person is actually buried, as in some traditions, then he's going to become one with the earth, and the air and the other elements are naturally going to be released. If on the other hand somebody follows like the Parsi tradition where the body is put out, then the body is going to be eaten by birds, and then the form of the stool of the birds gets back into the gets back to nature. So this process called Panchatvam, to say that he's become one with the 5 elements. And then she says, hey, listen, you're Dharmagya, you're somebody who knows Dharma. Yes. So I'm telling you what you should do. Quickly finish the final rites. Yes. Finish the final rites and see what your responsibility is that you should be able to take up the office. So that's the end of chapter 72. Do you have any questions, comments till here?
Prabhu, this seemed like a very interesting part, even though we have heard it previously also, and there have been many interesting parts. But then this really shows the mother's love for a son.
It shows the mother's love for her son, and the mother's misread of the son, because Vasishta says that very clearly even earlier, because she thinks this is going to give him pleasure. But you're going to see what this is going to do to Bharata, when he really gets on her case. So Bharata, if you see, he says, what misfortune has fallen on me? She thinks this is a fortunate situation that she has brought about to him. And then straight away, without any qualms, he straight away accuses Kaikeyi, and he tells her, you have come here for the destruction of this race. These 2 boons that you have asked for, you're like a fatal knight that has come to destroy everything in our family. My father did not realize that he was embracing live charcoal. Anybody's ever had the experience of touching charcoal without knowing that it is charcoal? I'll share one incident with you. When we were kids, in the streets of Chennai, when we go on vacation and stuff like that, we'd play cricket, and we will play cricket barefoot. So what happened? The ball got hit to one particular corner of the street. Now it also means the corner of the street will also be very perfumed, unlike Ayodhya. Ayodhya is perfumed with aguru and sandalwood. Here it will be perfumed with urine many times. Depends on if it's facing a main road or something like that. So the ball had gone on one side, and then I saw I was running to get the ball and throw it back. And as I was running, I saw ash that had been thrown there. So my thought it was ash. I ran into it, but the ash had just been thrown from an iron bala. In the old days, the iron bala will have one dabba where you put charcoal, and once he's done with that whole thing, the charcoal along with the ash will be thrown on the floor. So what came to my eye was the ash, but what was within was charcoal. I had put both my legs on charcoal without knowing that. So this is unknowingly putting your legs on charcoal. But sometimes, Janiya, Suniya, Vishakaino, knowing and understanding, we bring about great problems upon oneself. So she's saying, this is what my father has done to himself. You have been, the worst thing that has happened. Sinful woman, sinful thoughts. You're the reason for the death of my father, and you have deprived this family of happiness. Yes, and you are the reason for Rama to be exiled. You are the reason for the king's thing. And he's saying, I don't know what will happen to Sumitra and Kaushalya in the absence of Rama. So he said, May Mata, every time Rama would come and call you, May Mata, my mother, and he dealt with you in that manner. How could you have the heart to be like this? You have forced that pure-minded Rama to go to the forest wearing a bark garment. How could you ever do this? The glorious Rama never even contemplated evil. He is the person who never even thought of evil. What possible reason did you have to send somebody like this in bark garment to exile? You are unaware of my devotion to Rama. Here he declares. He says, Labdva vidito manye nateham ragavam prati. Labdva vidito manye na te aham ragavam prati. You don't know how much dedication I have to Raghava. This is a great calamity you have caused for me, for you, and for this kingdom because of your grief. And then he says, do you think in comparison, when people like Rama and Lakshmana are there, I have any ability to actually rule this kingdom? No way. You got it all wrong. So here she understands what she has got herself into. Now her reality dawns. So if you see, a few days after Rama moving on, Dasharatha passes away. A couple of days after that, all this action happens. Immediately the messengers are sent. 7 days after that, Bharata comes in. So it's like a period of 15 days. In the 15 days, she lived in the phantasmagoria that she is doing all this out of affection for her son, and she thinks this is good for him. Many times, as parents, we think that we are working for the well-being of our children. We are sometimes half-informed, ill-informed, sometimes well-informed, and if Krishna gives us the right intelligence, we may take the right call. But there are a lot of chances that we make mistakes out of love and affection for the children. But when one is completely in tamoguna, then these decisions are made against the norms of dharma, against the advice of elders. It is definitely going to be detrimental, even if it looks like it is favorable in the short term. You may make some money, you may get some glory, you may get on Facebook, you may whatever. Many things can happen, but this is not going to take us anywhere. The reality is, the children can always turn back and say, hey Pop, you should have sent me to this country to study. Why did you put me in CBSE? You should have put me in IB. A lot of things that we can say. But based on the circumstances that parents are, they think this is good for them and they go ahead and do it. That seems to be the kind of situation that Kaikeyi is in. But beyond that, apart from just this, the fact that she was scheming, and she became greedy for her son and for herself, power drunk. But all of this evaporated in 15 days. It came to null. As I made this mention before, I think it is Bhojaraja who says, what did she get? Vaidavyaika phalam shriyam. She got one great auspicious wealth, which is vidva twa, to become a widow. That's the only thing she got. Her son didn't become a king. She didn't please herself. She didn't get the kind of position she wanted. Kausalya didn't have to suffer the way she thought she had a one-upmanship on her. None of those things happened. Hare Krishna. So we are done now with a part of chapter 73. In my notes, this is um, you know lesson number 59. We will continue with the rest in the next week. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments before we close? Hare Krishna. Everybody, can you please mic on? We can have our Jai Gosha and wrap up.
Oh, nice.
And Hare Krishna, Radhika Saki, thank you for your comment. I want to say from the next week onwards, now I live in Mankul, and I would be very happy starting to have these classes in different homes, in small numbers, understanding that COVID is still around, respecting the necessary norms for that, maintaining the appropriate distancing. But I think we should start having physical classes for Ramayana. We have another 2-3 weeks, after which we will have to pause for easily a straight month because we're going on the Ramayana tour. So whoever is interested, please let me know. We can start hosting it in either different houses. I'd be very happy having it here. Those in the Mankul area are welcome to join me physically for this class. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Everybody together. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki
Ki
Jai.
jai.